Hey guys, I know it's been a long time and I don't look, great and camera ready and I'm so close to you, but I wanted to go ahead and address something that I did that I said I would never do, which is that I turned off the comment section for the bonus video. And never wanted to be the type of person that censors my viewers, but some of the comments and the frequency of the comments were starting to get overwhelming, and some of them were getting to the point where a lot of people were saying things that were kind of rapey, and one person had actually made the comment that instead of advocating for whatever this video was supposed to be advocating for, which was really that I wanted to encourage people who were on the fence. Maybe there was teenagers or younger people that were watching it and they were gay and they were afraid of joining the wrestling team or whatever, or an adult trying to find a wrestling group or BJJ school or whatever, to seek out getting into those clubs and school programs and whatnot, regardless of, sorry, I'm seeing myself in there is distracting, regardless of, the fear of having a boner, and being seen for having it, going into those programs anyways, because it happens to everybody. And that's kind of the big point that I was trying to make there. And I was trying to advocate for people to, not live with the regret, like as I do, of not being involved in those programs because we were afraid of getting hard. And I had other reasons for not doing it, but that's kind of the gist of it. And then, so the comment that had come up was that instead of advocating for that kind of thing, maybe I should advocate for gay people to not sexually assault straight people. And, it's one of those things that, I've talked with my therapist about, and he kind of said that, well, this person obviously doesn't have much emotional maturity or is, homophobic or things like that, so don't give him the power. And I've thought about it in great depth, and I've decided that the best thing to do is actually kind of to talk about this as I've always tried to do, with, in an earnest way and hopefully a productive way. And so, first of all, yes, we do have issues within the gay community of people committing sexual assaults, but I don't believe it's anywhere unique to the gay community as it is a problem that has to do with men as a whole. And so, we tell each other when we go out to gay bars and that type of thing that, you need to cover your drink when you're not watching it because somebody can roofie you and whatnot. I have known plenty of girls in my life that have been roofied. One of my close friends was roofied at a Mariners game. And fortunately she was with other friends that made sure that she got home safe. And so, to put the weight of what's happened on the gay community is disingenuous and not really fair at all. And as for like my advocacy of gay people not raping people or sexually assaulting them, first of all, my target audience is not a bunch of sex offenders, right? Hopefully you all believe in consent and that you guys are asking for enthusiastic consent when you engage in sexual practices. And that's what I always have kind of looked for. And I use that term enthusiastic consent because it comes from the show Sex Education, which is a great comedy to watch. I highly recommend it. But, they said that in there. The counselor had basically said that, instead of looking for the absence of no when it comes to consent, look for enthusiastic consent, and I really like that. However, when we are looking at what probably was the main cause of this person's comment, which was the Jim Jordan wrestling scandal. that was something that was getting a lot of attention in the media, but it's also not really relevant to this discussion. And so I'm going to actually refer to my notes here just a little bit. So first of all, there's sexual assault in both the gay community and the straight community, and we do need to address that as a society. And there are things I'm going to get to here in a little bit that kind of look at where that permissiveness, what is allowing sexual assault to be such a big problem in our society. And it, spoiler alert, it has nothing to do with whether you're gay or straight. And there are societal issues that are actually now documented in several studies that I'm going to reference here in regards to why sexual assault still happens in the U.S. And so, one thing I'm going to point to, first of all, is, again, this isn't something that's just happening, gay people sexually assaulting men. So, I'll refer to the incident over at Yale a couple years ago, where you had a bunch of people in a fraternity standing out there with signs saying, no means yes, yes means anal. That is a problem that we have in the U.S., is that people don't respect consent. People don't always, we don't have earnest discussions on consent. And that is allowing this non-consent culture to perpetuate. And so getting back to the Jim Jordan thing, Jim Jordan is not really, he has responsibility here. He absolutely does. But he's not the star person in here. And somebody had actually recently referred to Jim Jordan as creepy Jim Jordan, and thought that he was actually one of the people committing the assault in Ohio State University. And that is not quite what happened there. But what did happen there is what's going to get to my later point here, which is that, so what happened was that Richard Strauss was the physician that was attending all the sports programs. It was not limited to just the wrestling program. And he was the attending physician from, I actually didn't write down the date that he started, but the first complaint about Richard Strauss being the physician doing excessive genital examination. So you can come in for a sore throat and he would get into your genitals. And he did this to over 177 reported young men who were in doing athletics at Ohio State University. The first complaints happened in 1979. He was fired in 1996. And why that relates to Jim Jordan is that Jim Jordan was the assistant coach for the Ohio State University wrestling program from 1987 to 1995. During that time, there were reports of glory holes or peepholes being found in the showers, that Richard Strauss was actually taking showers with the team, so he would just time his showers for whenever the team would be going in there. And Strauss was fired in 1996, 1 year after Jim Jordan left the wrestling program. So, but the story doesn't really end there either. So what happened then is that he actually established shop outside of the school and then was offering, free medical health care and continuing to abuse and sometimes sexually assaulting, sometimes doing excessive testicular exams, sometimes actually going as far as raping victims. And then he died from suicide in 2005. I wasn't able to really find any information on whether or not Richard Strauss had a spouse or whether he was gay or he was straight. And really, honestly, I don't know that matters that much. What really matters here in this case is that I'll also point to Jim Jordan's boss, the head coach, which is Russ Hellickson, who was the head coach from the year before Jim Jordan had started, which was 1986. He left in 2006. So he was there for the entire scandal, and I don't know what his involvement was in firing Strauss. But what I do know is that over that period of time, from 1979 to the date that he was fired in 1996, there were annual reports of sexual assault. They were people reporting this constantly to different administrators, and they did nothing. Now, this isn't like something that happened in the past. This particular case, obviously, is in the past, but what allowed for it to happen was not just what Strauss did, but what everybody else didn't do. And so one that's actually happening this year that I was able to find was Glacier High School sexual assault. So in Glacier High School, one of the students, actually it was two boys, who were on a bus to a tournament, had held down a teammate and put a attachment on a vibrator and shoved it up the ass of one of the other students. And this has been reported, and apparently what's going on with that high school, the Glacier High School, is that there is a persistent problem with this, that hazing is part of the culture. Now, this isn't like necessarily a gay act that's going on here. It is a hazing act, and it's part of that hazing culture that oftentimes is actually found in wrestling teams. Again, that's not a gay issue. And what's more disturbing about this is that the school board is not talking to reporters. They don't want to talk about this. They say that they're potentially handling it. And when, historically, when schools have done this, there was a young girl that had been sexually assaulted by a boy at her school, and actually, I think it was like a teacher's assistant or one of the teachers. The teacher had been suspended for 3 years and then was allowed to come back. And this seems to happen a lot more in the Midwest than it does in places like Seattle or Portland or areas that are more liberal. And yes, I don't really want to go into politics here, but in March 22, 2019, is that sexual assaults are more commonly done by conservatives. It's more common to have them in conservative areas. And part of that actually has to do with the fact that it's going to be less likely to be reported in a conservative area. Conservatives are also more likely to victim shame the victims, and they are less likely to believe the victims. And this is all stuff that was coming out of the Me Too movement. And also, they're not likely to see it as a societal issue. So they don't believe that it is society's problem to fix it. It is an individual instance problem. And while to an extent I might actually agree with that point slightly, but don't jump to the comment section just yet, is that we may not be able to stop people like Richard Strauss from claiming their first victim. What we can do is we can believe the victim, we can look for the evidence, we can do thorough investigation, we can fire them, we can hold them responsible, we can increase the punishments for sex offenders, and we can actually hold them accountable for their actions. That's what we can do. And we need that to be a 50-state solution here in the U.S. And what we're seeing is that kind of systemically, not just in Ohio State, not just in the Glacier High School, but all across this country, when these things are reported, we have this tendency to not do things for fucking decades. And that is just absolutely absurd. And so the last thing I kind of want to leave you with is when I kind of first became an agnostic, and a lot of my friends were kind of always pointing out to, the sexual assaults that are committed by priests. Why are priests more likely than any other profession to sexually assault a minor? And what I found was that in a way they're not, but it's also hard to say because sexual assault, again, especially in conservative areas that tend to be more religious and whatnot, they have a tendency not to believe, they have a tendency not to act on people reporting things, and so there's kind of a victim-shamey thing going on there that is basically permitting sex offenders to assault people. And that is an ongoing issue. But, when we look at, priests versus, say, camp counselors, that's another cliche when it comes to sexual assault. And when it comes to what it really came down to in my research was that these are both groups of people that work with minors. And I know that sounds probably like the dumbest thing ever, and the most obvious thing ever, but it's true, is that people who tend to seek out occupations where they can be a authority figure over a minor, a mentor, or somebody that the minor looks up to, it gives them the power to manipulate, it gives them the power to convince them to not speak out. And so it's not so much of an issue of, all priests are rapists, right? There is a correlation, not necessarily a causal relationship, with conservatism and sexual assault. And we have to look at that as kind of a systemic issue and saying, okay, what about these conservative mindsets that's allowing that? And it is the lack of action, in my opinion. So, what's the takeaway from this? Well, first of all, it's about the access, and not sometimes, when I've talked to, again, my psychologist about, why do people commit sexual assault? And the answer generally is, we don't really know. People who have committed sexual assault blame everything between being assaulted themselves, although research has shown that, that just because you've been sexually assaulted doesn't mean you're going to commit sexual assault. That it could be, a series of abuse that could do it, maybe not. It can be peer pressure or a cultural thing, as we've discussed, and I think that one has a stronger link with the hazing and that type of thing. So, we need to recognize when it's happening, hold the abusers accountable, and try not to throw entire demographics, like gay people, under the bus just because, okay, this was a man-on-man sexual assault doesn't necessarily mean that it was a gay assault. When it comes to fraternity culture and we see sexual assault there, it's not necessarily a gay thing. There might be some repressed homosexuality going on there, but we're not talking about people who say, hey, I'm openly gay, I have a boyfriend. We're less likely to commit sexual assault if we're out of the closet and we're in a society and a region where that's accepted. Right? So, I think that if we really, really want to address this issue, then we need to get rid of our toxic masculinity, which I know that that's a combative term for some people, that masculinity can be toxic. It's not referring to all masculinity. It's specifically referring to particular traits that are often associated with masculinity, but don't define it. Right? So this could be, musculature, and I'm going to be dominant. I need to be assertive about my opinions, whether they're right or wrong. These are all going to be traits of toxic masculinity. And being more open and accepting of gay people in our society actually will help it, because if it is a symptom of being closeted or something like that, where you're in a repressive society, then taking away that repression may actually help with the situation. But all in all, really what we can do here and now is that we can hold those people accountable, believe the victims, and do what's best for our wrestlers. And that's what I have to say on that topic. Try to be constructive with your comments in the comments below. I do read all of those, and I have been kind of in a very depressed state, and I'll get to that in another video here in a moment. And you know, I don't always have the energy to do a video like this. This one's been a particularly challenging one that I've been avoiding for weeks. And I still don't think I've done it very good justice. So let me know what you think. Try to keep it constructive, and I will see you guys later. Bye.